Thank you for allowing us to share our story with you of something that we have been working on at Duke. I'm Amy Harris Nordo, and I'm joined by my colleague, Chet Corey. We work in the Office of Research Informatics at Duke University. And just in case you've been seeing this title, MMCI is our sponsor, and after some of our names, it's a program here at Duke that is the Masters in the Management of Clinical Informatics. It's part of our School of Medicine, but you don't have to be a physician to attend. And in fact, as you can see, my background is in nursing. So a little bit about Duke, and I hope you have some idea about Duke because we're all here today, but we're a large academic medical institution, and we use for our EHR the Epic. So when I talk about this, while we built this to be EDC or EHR agnostic, we've worked with it only with Epic because that's what we have available to us. We have research as one of our foundational formats for us here at Duke. And so we have about 2,100 open IRB studies. We get about 300 new clinical studies a year, have about 1,500 investigators and about 400 coordinators that are involved in site-based research here at Duke. And then just one more piece of information that hopefully will help to set the groundwork for context for what we're going to talk about is we use a product called REDCap. How many people have heard of this product? Okay, great. For those of you who haven't, it's out of Vanderbilt, and it's a research data, electronic data capture system, and we use it quite robustly here at Duke. So I wanted to start with the problem because, as Brady had said in her speech, it kind of how things come about here at Duke is what are we looking to solve as a problem? And what we were looking to solve as a problem isn't even as good as what this picture depicts, which is the swivel chair approach. When we do clinical data collection for clinical research and we use that data from the EHR, the swivel chair approach is this great concept that you would look in the EHR. Now you can't cut and paste, right? So now you're going to turn around and you're going to type it into the EDC. So this is what you do all day. Except that's not really what's happening. That's the best case scenario. What's really happening is one person is looking in the EHR and writing it down on a piece of paper because we want to keep a source form. And so you can just imagine that we're running out of space for this paper, so we're turning it sideways and we're turning it backwards, and you can think how great this is going. So then we leave those in a nice pile, and somebody else comes along and picks that pile up at some point and takes them over and sits down and starts putting them in. And of course, they're looking at it and they're going, I'm not quite sure what this says. I don't understand. And so they're going back and forth. And this isn't just something that's happening at Duke. This happens at all sites in the way that data is collected. And so when we look at this, my thing is always, there's just got to be a better way to do this. And so I started talking to what I call the brilliant people at Duke. I said, there has to be a better way, right? You can do something with this. And so they said, well, tell me what you want to do with your data. You just want to move it from here to there? And I said, oh, no. It can't be that easy. There's a couple little extra things that we need to do with our data. First off, we may want to add data points. There might be data points that aren't in the EHR that we're going to want to add. We may want to update data that we didn't agree with what was put into the EHR and we want to add it. We want to keep an audit trail of all of that, a provenance for all that. We want it all behind our firewall. And by the way, all of the standards that we've been probably using in the EHR, we're going to need this to be a little bit different when it gets sent over into our EDC and eventually over in the FDA for those types of trials. So we have all these complexities, right? We have end users who are using the data that's already in the EHR. They're adding, they're changing the data, and we want to keep a provenance of all of this because we don't want to have a pile of papers that are sitting in somebody's office right now. So I said, okay, now do you understand what we're trying to fix? And these are the brilliant people I get to work with. And they said, oh yeah, we get what you want. We know a better way. We can make it a better way. So what they did was they built a middleware. We call it the RADapter. And the reason why we call it the RADapter is because we have a team in the Office of Research Informatics that builds customized software solution for the research community. So they're our research application development team. And this is an adapter between the EDC and our EHR, so hence the RADapter. And they did this based on the RFD standards, the Retrieve Form Data Capture Standards, as part of our CTSA grant. We piloted this here at Duke, and it has been offered at Duke, and it is built out to work with REDCap. Hence why I wanted you to understand why we picked REDCap when we have 4,000 studies that are using REDCap right now. And then we said, we have this in production, proof of concept, and part of our usability study, we said, hey, how do we know this thing actually makes any impact? Everybody talks about it making an impact, right? How do we know that it makes an impact? And so Dr. Eisenstein, Eric Eisenstein, who's in the back, was kind enough to help me to really do a quantitative study around this. And so we embedded software into a live environment where we collected real patients' data, where coordinators sit, and we did time and motion, mouse clicks, keystrokes, time. We recorded them. We did not do the eye visualization movement because that's difficult to audit. And what we found was that with just a small portion, less than 1% of the data being auto-populated into the forms and the rest being collected into the form directly, we found a significant enough that we felt was significant enough savings that we said, let's continue to build this out. But as I came back to my brilliant people and I said, okay, great, I like that. That's great. I want some more of that data and I want it just to pop in there, right? Could you do that for me? They said, that's really great, but the CCD standard isn't really gonna probably be what we can do this with. So I took it back to Chet and said, okay, well, can you do it with something else? And he said, I think I've got an idea. So I'm gonna turn it over to Chet, and this is exciting because this is we've talked about this product quite extensively, but this is the first time that we're sharing the pivot to building this off of FHIR. Oh, one thing, cons, in addition, sorry. So he told me, in addition to there being limited data, if you've seen one CCD, you've seen one CCD. And so at Duke, we have, I think 23, where maybe Felipe and Melanie can jump in there, and James Stewart, 23 CCDs within our Epic instance alone at Duke. I'm looking to see if they're there, approximately 23. And so this is where Chet said, crumple it up, and I got a new idea. So can you take it away?
Hello, everyone. I'm Chet Corey. Yeah, so we decided to go with FHIR because we also wanted this solution to be able to be utilized outside of Duke, so across EHR. So we wanted to make it EHR agnostic, and FHIR met that criteria. It's also a new standard, and it's more of a bottom-up approach. So the adoption has grown, and adding new data points is also easier than creating another version of the CCD. Also, the variety of different formats makes it a little bit more flexible for early developers to contribute to, and it being an open source project that we were hoping to be able to, it makes it more accessible for developers of any background. So that seems a little daunting. I'm going to show you all the demo so that you have some context to go off of. So this is a demo of us from inside of Epic, from the patient context, and we're launching a study that the RADapter is a middleware. So you're going to see that launch in a browser inside Epic. And the study's already recorded inside the RADapter, mapped to REDCap. But the patient does not already exist inside the RADapter or inside REDCap. So it's going through the authorization protocol. I'm also going to do another patient, so it might go a little quickly. So right here, we got the patient data. Demographics data doesn't need any confirmation, but we need the user or the researcher to select which observations they want to map to which fields within a REDCap. And as you can see in a few of these fields, like body temperature, it exists in multiple locations. And our approach allows us to capture the same data point or different data points in different fields, so you're not limited. And yeah, we've populated observations, one of the meds, demographic information, and now we're going to go in and do the next patient. And it's more of the same process. So in this authentication protocol, the reason you're not seeing the login is because the user was already authenticated. And the way that we're doing an authentication protocol is, oops, that's fine. I'll go back to the diagrams more accurate to what I want to talk about. So the launch procedure, this is a big issue that we came across, and this is also why you may have seen inside the FHIR field that we are interested in study and subject, research study and research subject as FHIR resources. And this is because there's not a concept of a study from FHIR standpoint. So for us to be able to get FHIR data about a specific patient, we can't tell whether that patient is part of that specific study or what patients belong to a specific study. So we need both directions. And the way that we were able to get the data is we harvest it from the CCD. We record it in our middleware, and then we're able to gather the data after they've already been authenticated. So we know who the user is, and we know that that user has access to that study because they've been launched from that standpoint. And also we know the patient belongs to the study. But in order for us to do things like update calls, we still want to make sure that the patient belongs to the study. So FHIR provides us that avenue to go forward, to hopefully be able to use new resources, and also to do updates and use other resources that haven't not yet been developed. So it gives us a lot of flexibility. I'm going to pass it back over to Amy for the going forward.
So, we like to dream big here. So as we look at this, we like this to be obviously EHR agnostic. And we'd also like this to be EDC agnostic. So we'd like this to not only be able to work with REDCap, but maybe with something like Metadata Rave, or maybe with the ACC registries, so that we can find a way to collect this data. What we see is an issue from the sites from this perspective is that having to host and maintain multiple different interfaces for different products could become very cumbersome for us. So what we would like to do is be able to provide this middleware, this code for this middleware to all of the other academic medical institutions, and they can put it behind their firewall and allow all of the endpoints, the EDCs, the registries, and so forth, to plug into this so that we can allow this data to go across. But it still allows us as a site to maintain that much needed ability behind our firewall to collect the data and have those source documents that we really want and need to have there. Also, we see that there could be a potential with that middleware to open it up so that sponsors could directly come in to the middleware to audit. It has a very robust audit trail that we didn't include in this presentation. We're happy to share with you outside of this. But instead of having for the sponsor to fly onto site and sit with somebody from the study and go through the EHR, which can be a very long process and is difficult to just give them the information about the study participant data that's particular to the study. They would be able to connect in through the middleware and be able to see exactly what data was shared on the patient. So that's a potential next step that we would be interested in taking. And also, we're excited to hear that there's development of a resource for research that will give us the specific things that we need, like, are you on a study? And if so, which one? And are you still on that study? Those are things that we're really excited about doing. And as always, and I think the gentleman from the University of Utah said it best, what we're interested in doing is collaborating and working and sharing our work so that as a community, we can build a better way and we can bring solutions to patients in a faster way through the use of technology and informatics. Thank you very much.